there everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you how I bond with tarot decks. So today I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot deck by Kim Krans. I'll just show you the box right there. So this is a very popular deck at the minute. It has been for actually a few years now, and I'm so excited that I have finally got this deck. I have wanted it for so long and it is finally mine. Now, if you don't know this deck, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at those images. I mean, they're so minimalistic and black and white with just a tiny little bit of colour, which is, I've shown you that one, which is just all about it. I'm all about it. I love it. So this is a deck that I really want to work with, and I want it to become my main deck eventually. So the bonding with this deck is going to be severe. So the first thing that I always do the second I get a tarot deck is I shuffle it. Now I am terrible at shuffling, as you can clearly tell. I mean, I just can't do it. I have tiny hands, and this is quite a nice small deck as well actually, so I might practice my shuffling with this deck, because I am just appalling. It's embarrassing, frankly, for a tarot reader. So another thing that, so when you're shuffling, you basically are just getting a feel for the cards, you're feeling the thickness of the paper, you're just kind of connecting with them on a physical level. You know, they've been in that box cooped up for a long time, so we kind of want to get them out, get a bit of kind of life into them, and, you know, just give them a good shuffle. And while you're doing that, you can kind of, you know, occasionally look at the images, you know, pull cards out, kind of observe them, and that's just a nice thing to do to kind of get started. So another thing you're going to want to do is, when you're using a tarot deck, you want to know every single card like, you know, it's a member of your family. The last thing you want is to be doing a reading with an unfamiliar deck and you pull out a card that you've never seen before. I mean, that's just embarrassing, it's a disaster, like, you do not want that to happen. So you want to be familiar with all the cards. So the way that I would do this is to kind of compare it to another deck in my mind. So, or even physically if you wanted to. So as I said, this deck actually has the traditional suits and the mainly traditional major arcana. I think they're all the traditional ones in the major, but we shall find out very soon. The court cards are slightly different. They're daughter, son, mother and father, but I mean that's very easy to remember, that's fine. So I can basically directly put my knowledge of the traditional card meanings into this deck, even though the imagery is completely different. So I know the traditional meanings of all these cards already, it's just knowing which ones they kind of correspond to. And also what I will do is I will try and put my own interpretations on the cards. I'll study them as I did my first ever deck of cards and kind of come up with my own meanings, my own feelings, you know, additional ways that you can interpret them aside from the traditional meanings in accordance with the deck. Because sometimes when you're doing readings, you'll want to use different decks depending on just kind of the feeling you get. Sometimes you'll feel like you should use a more traditional one. Sometimes you feel something a bit more abstract that's open to a bit more interpretation might be good. So it's all completely personal, so that is what I'm going to do. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay all the cards out in order and look at each card and interpret the meaning, and also talk about the traditional meaning in accordance with the card that I am focusing on. And I'll do that with every single card, and also interpret my own kind of thoughts and feelings about those cards. So then I will be familiar with every single card in the deck, and I also think it's important that all the cards are laid out. I think that's quite nice, because it's nice for the cards to get a bit of fresh air, basically, you know. As I said, they've been cooped up, and it's nice for them all to be laid out and just to have a bit of freedom. I don't know, I think that's quite nice, kind of in a cleansing way, to be honest with you. So I am also going to do some path working. Now, if you don't know what path working is, in terms of tarot, it's basically where you imagine yourself entering into the card. So you'll get in a meditative state and you'll basically take a card and you'll pretend that you're going into that card. So you will use your imagination to enter the card and to take a walk around, go beyond the borders of the card, and you can really feel it. You can talk to whatever being or person or whatever is on the card. You can ask them questions and see what they respond saying. You know, that way you really become one with the deck. It's like it's actually, you know, it's a living, breathing thing. They are people that you're familiar with, beings that you're familiar with, friends. You know, you put yourself into the cards, and I just think that's a fantastic way of developing an intensely deep connection with the cards. Another thing that I like to do is I like to get out the cards that I am not as keen on. Now, this is an incredibly insightful thing to do, and it's kind of shadow working in a way. So if I just have a look through now, I'll see if I can find a card that I'm not as fond of. Right. So this one is weird because I actually like rats. I love rats, but this card just kind of freaks me out a bit. I don't know. There's something about it. I really like the moon, but the rat on the cups just look at it and you figure out the interpretation. You know, look at the traditional meaning and look at any interpretations that kind of you get from the imagery of that card. You work out exactly why it is you don't like that card, and quite often that says a lot about you, about your kind of state of mind, about things that maybe you're kind of hiding. So I think that is a very, very good way, because you need to let the cards challenge you, basically. You know, when you're doing a reading for someone else, it is a lot about challenge, and if you're not going to let yourself be challenged by the cards, then how do you expect your clients or querents or anyone that you're giving a reading to be challenged by the cards? So do that for all the cards that kind of give you the heebie-jeebies and make you feel a bit uncomfortable. Write it down in a journal. I've got my journal here. This is what I write everything down in, and that is a really good way of both exploring yourself and developing a deeper connection with the deck as well, because it changes it from something that, you know, it changes the cards from something that you kind of like avoid to something that you think, oh, I learned a lesson from that, I learned so much from that. So that's brilliant. Now I'm just going to film a bit of the process of me sorting through all these cards and looking at them and the meanings and like all that fun stuff. So yes. Right, so first what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort the cards into the suits. So we've got cups, 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 got major, 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 swords, swords, swords. Right, so I've got my Major Arcana cards here, I've got my cups here, swords here, wands here, and finally my pentacles. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay all my major cards out in order, and basically the same with the four suits, just lay them out all in order. So I'm going to have the ones of all the suits down here, and then work up to the court cards, and then just similar with this. all the cards laid out in order. So we've got our 4 suits here, and these are all the major arcana cards. So we've got our pentacles here, wands here, swords here, and cups here. So we've got all the aces down here, then the 2s, 3s, 4, 5, 6s, and so on, and then the court cards at the top. And then here we have our major arcana from the Fool, Magician, High Priestess, all the way down to the World. So these are all in order, kind of in rows. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these crossways. So I'm going to take all of my aces and I'm going to look at the similarities between them. So aces always usually just have one big image. There's usually not any kind of person or animal in them. It's usually just one big image. So just getting familiar with the imagery and basically having a play with it, comparing it to cards that I've had in the past, and I'll do that for every single one of the cards, thinking about the similarities and differences to what I'm familiar with already. I'll think about any new ideas that I have that come from the imagery. Again, I'll look and see if there are any cards that I'm not as fond of and take them out and kind of have a bit of an internal dialogue as to why that might be. I might do some pathworking into certain cards. In the end, I want to have pathworked every single card multiple times until I'm incredibly familiar with it. But at this stage, you don't need to worry about doing every single card. I would just, start with the ones that you feel drawn to and then kind of move from there. But ideally, you want to pathwork with all the cards at some point in order to, get to know your deck properly. Right, so once I've done this, I will basically leave them out to bathe in the sun for a little while, and then maybe I'll light some incense and or some sage. You can use incense, you can use sage, and just kind of bless all the cards and do a bit of a cleansing ritual, welcome them to your life, to your house, and thank them for being here. And basically anything you want to do. You can do a massive elaborate ritual, you can wave some incense around, you don't even have to do that, you can just gather them all up, shuffle them, and just say a few words to the cards as they're kind of in your hand, if that's what you want to do. It's a completely personal thing, because your relationship to your cards is yours, So, completely up to you. You can use crystals, you can, whatever. Just do what you want. But this is just a really great way of seeing the entire deck laid out. You know every single card, you're familiar with every single card, you've thought in detail about every single card. So when they come up, when you're doing readings, you will immediately know that card, you'll know how you feel about it, it'll flick a switch within you and you'll think, yes, this is what that card is all about. Just like if you were describing your friend's personality, So that is what I'll do with my cards, and thank you so much for watching. Right, and that's the end of this video, so thank you so much for watching, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye.